All right, so we're working on getting Braiins onto all of these miners so we can dunk them, right? So this is Braiins Toolbox. Braiins Toolbox is now available on every platform. Super freaking cool. I couldn't be more stoked about it because I'm a Mac guy. I know. Not everybody's happy to hear that one. So this is their first public release of Toolbox. This is basically a way to remotely install Braiins onto your rigs, right? So Braiins, and you can see it's starting to install. Braiins is aftermarket firmware. It has auto tuning. It's any way you look at it, it's better than the stock bitmain firmware. So I'm all about it. This is the HDD mining shed, by the way. So we're just mining with straight hard drives in here. It's a work in progress, but it's on HVAC. Obviously, I never run the heat, so the hard drives keep it warm. And if it gets too warm, then the mini split kicks on. But it doesn't make sense to do that with miners. So if you do air cooled, right, you do a fan setup and you just suck air through and use ambient air to keep them cool. There's a lot of really downsides with that, especially in the long term. So this is where we're going to move to immersion. In particular, right, we're working on the fog hashing immersion deployment today. We've already deployed the DCX one. That thing's been great. So now we're looking at the fog hashing. So you can see right here, we got the fog hashing unit, which at a glance, right, you have what I believe to be, I haven't measured them yet, but at a glance, you have the same fan size. But the actual device is freaking huge in comparison. So do we really need that much of a heat sink? Well, time will tell. It's going to be easy because it's cold out here, but we'll have to see the performance once it gets hot here in the summer. I think with the fact that I'm tuning my miners for efficiency, not overclocking them, that this freaking beefy freaking radiator will be more than enough to get the job done here. I've been working on building my own immersion Bitcoin mining farm, and I emphasize the immersion because honestly it's really immersive. One, it's pretty cool, it's pretty intense, and it's been a really unique and fun experience. Today we're going to be looking at Braiins OS. They recently released their toolbox, and basically what that means is that you can remotely deploy Braiins onto your bitmain antminers, your Bitcoin miners, your ASIC mining rigs, right? They've added new model support, but this is crazy because the remote deployment is so quick, it's so easy, and you don't have SD cards, and SD cards are a point of failure. So if you're looking for an exciting firmware upgrade for your Bitcoin miners, right, this year, this is probably going to be it. This isn't sponsored. They didn't pay me anything. They did send me some cool shirts a couple weeks ago, I guess, after they saw a previous video, because we actually had to use Braiins because we didn't have fan spoofers when we did our original DCX immersion miner deployment. So Braiins was actually a lifesaver because there's an immersion mode in them that basically acts as a fan spoofer in the firmware, and I'll explain more about that as we go along. But yeah, I'm going to show you how to deploy this, and the coolest thing I want to lead with this is this software. Okay, it's free. There is a dev fee with the firmware, which I'll explain more about later, but it also supports every operating system: Linux, Windows, and even Mac. Oh yeah. Braiins OS Plus, and there's two I's in there. So there is the remote installation, which I'm going to walk you through in this video. They've added the S19K Pro support, S19J Pro Plus support. I mean, there's a crazy amount of different models. The reason why you would use Braiins is they basically say they can make your miner better, more efficient. You'll decrease your power consumption, you'll increase your hash rate, or something in between, or just get really fine-tuning capabilities. You get bonus features like immersion mode and other things like that. You also get a discounted fee if you mine to their pool. So I have since switched my miners to their mining pool. One of the biggest critiques of the Braiins mining pool, formerly Slush Pool, the original Bitcoin mining pool, is that they used a luck-based system. So some days you made a ton of Bitcoin, ton of money mining. Other days you made literally nothing. They've reduced their fee until the halving. They've switched from scoring, which is what I was just referencing, to FPPS. And here's a difference in the potential payouts, right? Really good days, average days, nothing day, bad day, right? It averages out relatively eventually, whatever. So an update on the pool. It's been good. The performance has been good. Yesterday mined 191, and that's about what I'm supposed to be earning here. All right, so I've remoted into my mining farm. Now I'm going over to the Braiins Toolbox, and I used my other computer when I originally did this. So this is gonna, be a full step-by-step. Get started. Okay, deny the cookies. Never want to see those pop-ups again for the rest of my life. Different versions here, right? 3 versions of Linux, Windows, Mac OS. Sweet. It auto detects me as Mac. Downloaded, drag, drop, easy. Click Launchpad, scroll to the back, Braiins Toolbox. Here it is. You need to install Rosetta. Rosetta installed. Open. Okay, fires up terminal, to be expected. And now we need to put in an IP address range. So this is just a range name placeholder. I'm using DHCP. Basically my IPs are randomly generated. If you're watching this video, you're probably also using DHCP. It's kind of the normal standard automatic configuration for routers and networks and things like that. So I'm putting in 192.168. Right, and when I look at all my different miners, right, here's 192.168.5, this one's on 0.4, this one's on 0.5, I've got some other ones on 0.7, for example. So let's go ahead and save and scan. So let's kind of think about what I should see here. Braiins only supports Bitcoin miners, right? Specifically antminers, bitmain miners, right? We look at my workers here. I've got 22. One's a Canon, one's a micro BT right now. So I've got 20 antminers. Ideally, 20 antminers or devices are going to be found. We're at 36% and we see 15. It's pretty good. We found at least 75% of them. This is normally a pretty quick thing, but I have miners over a lot of subnets. It's unusual to have this many subnets. 1. 2. I didn't put in any kind of values. I could have put ranges in that I knew that these miners were definitely in and narrowed this down. You can also just punch in their IP address. Like if you have one miner, you can even just directly type in its IP address and then it's going to, basically instantly locate it. 98%, and we're still missing 5. One miner I know that did not pop up here is this one. So let me just go ahead and directly enter that in. It's interesting. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. I also wonder if running 2 searches at the same time messed this up the most recent time, but whatever. So let's talk about, if you get a reading like unsupported, what does that mean? So unsupported means that the control board on your miner is unsupported. It does not work with Braiins. This is rare, right? But if you have a Zinc board per their dashboard and not a AML or BBB, right? AM Logic BeagleBone, then it's just not supported. They have not been able to get Braiins onto there. So a couple of things you can do. You can buy one of the new and really cool and absolutely sleek looking Braiins control boards. I haven't put one of these in a miner yet, but I'm actually going to put it in this miner next. So I'm pretty excited for that. There's also the aftermarket Epic control board. You could also get one of these other control boards like a BeagleBone that should work once you update the firmware on that other mining rig. Because all of these miners are essentially the same other than the control board. I mean, it's the same power supply. It's the same hash boards, like right within the models and things like that. Also, fun fact, when you're looking at the antminer power supplies, if you update to the latest firmware, you can use all of the later revisions. So if you have a revision B power supply, right, you can buy a revision F Just update the firmware and it will recognize and work with that revision F. But you can't really go backwards. That's going to be harder to do. I would like to shout out Altair because he's the one who has just been a great resource as I've worked through all of these things and asked questions on especially power supplies, but his mining PDU is freaking-tastic. But he specializes in carrying Bitcoin miner parts, right? So the Epic control board is another option. He sells BeagleBone boards, right? There's also the Xilinx 707 board, as well as the most common and popular antminer power supply, the APW 121215. So do have an affiliate link and a coupon code, VoskCoin, save some coin. But he's based in the US. He keeps a ton of stock here. So he's not just some lame drop shipper. Most of the time these things are shipping from his place in the US, probably to you in the US or maybe somewhere else. But cool guy, good customer service, good prices. And honestly, it's all you can really ask for. And while he does sell some Bitcoin miners, if you're looking for more options and more variety, we recommend the key channel sponsor for mining rigs. It's gonna be ASIC Marketplace. They got everything on there from, the hot Ice River miners, right? Do a little Casper mining. They got little mini miners like the Mini Doge 3, the KS0 Pro. They have the latest generation Bitcoin miners like the Micro BT, What's Miner M60S. Huge selection from different miners for Bitcoin and all of the altcoins out there. And like before, save some coin with code VoskCoin. So I guess I got sucked into a side quest. Let's go ahead and trash these and let's add a new range. We'll call this 1. I punched in 1 IP address. Look how quick the scan was. And it found the exact miner I'm looking for. This is one of the most recent miners I picked up to expand our immersion mining operations. It's an antminer S19K Pro. So instead of using an SD card, instead of putting a fan spoofer on here or anything like that, I'm gonna install Braiins. So this is gonna be fresh deployment, right? You can see that the Braiins OS is installable. It's not installed, so this is brand new. What we're gonna do here is go ahead and install. You can click multiple miners, right, when they're populated in your list. So I can go 1, 2, 3, and I could install Braiins on all of them. You can also update pool information, with batches, right? This can be a tool to scale your mining farm, right? Deploy adjustments across multiple mining rigs instead of entering into each individual rig. If you pursue mining on a bigger scale, it only becomes more and more cumbersome as you add more and more mining rigs. Look at the performance on this Antminer S19 XP on Braiins. I've been pretty impressed. So this is a 141 terahash a second model. It's mining less than 141 because out of the box it brought the power down to 3031 watts. But what was really interesting is its average realized hash rate here is around 136. But the efficiency is improved from 23 watts a terahash down to 21. I would much rather have a higher efficiency, which means I'm spending less on electric and I'm putting more actual Bitcoin in my pocket, and lose a couple terahash. And that right there is basically the beauty of the auto tuner in Braiins here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to speed run my setup because this is the mining pool configuration for the Braiins mining pool, because you don't have to use like the Stratum V2 stuff, but they have that, and you may as well use the best configuration for Braiins OS miners on the Braiins mining pool, if that's what you're going to do, right? Go mine at F2 pool or wherever else you want to. We copied that pool information. We can see we have a successful install on the new S19K, which is the 115 terahash a second version. So this is that device. Let's go ahead and refresh this, and we refresh, and it now shows the Braiins OS. And so it's just going to be starting up right now. It carried my pool information from the original settings, and so I already put this on Braiins. All this is going to stay the same, except I'm going to use that Stratum 2 that I copied from the other miner. You can grab that from the Braiins mining pool when you just go to connect a new worker. Copy that in on your device if you'd like to do so. So we added that, and so let's just go ahead and reboot the entire device. And in the meantime, while we wait for that to reboot, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. Braiins pool, go down to workers, connect worker, right? You can just grab, say, USA East Coast, and I can do Stratum v2. And this is going to be the configuration that I would put in here. All right, refresh the miner page, root. Same default login password that's on the whole antminer series. And so we got this fired up. It will default to your system. I noticed that when I quickly refresh these, sometimes it goes back to a white theme. I think that looks terrible. So I go to set system, I'm in settings, I click on dark, I'm gonna save that. That's great. And considering the top's black on this, they should just make the default configuration dark and you can click these other ones. I think that's a weird design choice. This looks so cool as a dark theme, and it's a nice contrast to like, oh, I have a miner on Braiins as opposed to a miner on the stock firmware or other firmware. Most of the other firmwares are, generally a white theme, a light theme. So honestly, that's how quick and easy it is to go ahead and deploy Braiins onto your miner. I mean, look, I wasn't even at my mining farm. I remoted into my PC, I downloaded the software, and then I remoted into the other devices basically through the use of what they call Braiins Toolbox. It installed the firmware, and it's good to go. Like, bam, done, easy. The only other thing to note here, right, and these are going to be advanced settings. So you can enable auto tuning, right? This is basically the device Braiins OS trying to learn and basically make this a better miner. With auto tuning, you can set a power target or a hash rate target, and it will do the best it can to hit those numbers. If I'm setting a power target, I may downclock this to like 2,400 watts and seek higher efficiency. A key note here is when we go to temperature and fans, and this is the venerable immersion mode that I've referenced so many times, right? So if I want to put this, if I know I'm going to be dunking this soon, I'll go ahead and click immersion mode. This is critical that you understand how this works though, because like if you put on immersion mode and you take the fans off and run it, you just have to hope that this thing will figure that out and the miner won't fry itself. If you did that on the stock firmware, like if you put a fan spoofer with a stock antminer, running the factory, software firmware from the factory, and you take the fans off, it will fry itself, and that is just nothing short of a tragedy. These S19Ks are pretty efficient out of the box. So this decided that its power usage is the 2760, and so it'll take the information from the miner, right? You put in some of these different miners and they come in with like 3,200, 3,250 of watts, or 3,031 or whatever. So it has the default power usage in there, and it's just going to start running, it's going to start tuning, it's going to start working. In particular, if we look at some of my older antminer S19s, we can see that I have the S19J Pro. This is the 104 terahash a second model. I downclocked all of these to 2,200 watts, and it gets their watts per terahash efficiency, severely decreased from around 30, right, 31 watts a terahash, down to 24 watts a terahash. Sometimes they hit 23. They can be a little bit lower, they can be a little bit higher. The hotter they get, right, the less efficient they become. This fluctuates some, and even tuners running right now to try to find a better setting for this miner. So this is going to be another one. Let's see what he's doing. So his tuner is also running, and he's at 25 watts a terahash, and just I don't know if you're a nerd and you're having fun. Let's go take another sample here. This one's running at about 25 watts a terahash. So Braiins says that you can't count on their power usage draw from the dashboard, but I tested their power usage, from what it's supposed to be specified in the software, and then what the miner was actually drawing at the wall, and it was spot on. So when I was like, draw 2,200 watts, it drew 2,200 watts or less from the wall on 240 voltage, right? I have single phase electricity. Your mileage may vary if your setup has an issue or is inefficient or things like that, but this software made this miner do exactly what I told it. and that's all you can ask. So I really think that it can't be understated that, you know, this kind of stuff is fun. It's engaging. I really enjoy it. It brings me back to like the GPU mining days where I got, you know, fine tuning capabilities, right? And understand this stuff fluctuates. You know, now we're down back towards 24 watts terahash. You know, this is running in immersion fluid. This miner in particular is in the DCX deployment we had. 5150, right? That's going to be the temperature in Celsius here on this miner. Very cool, but it's cool outside, so it's easy. With the immersion setup, I could easily overclock these miners and get some crazy hash rates. But again, that efficiency will go down. I have a high electricity rate in the in the sector of crypto mining at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, you know, for a serious build out. That's like a good residential electric rate. Working towards getting that down, stuff like that. But the bottom line is running an efficient operation is the right decision for me, especially with gear that's kind of in the last leg of its cycle, right? I mean, there's S21s that are much more efficient and powerful than the S19J Pro 104 terahash. So I'm trying to increase their lifespan, you know, by running them more efficiency. Not just like have this hardware last longer, but I mean just simply be more viable from like a mining profitability point of view. And these are all things I could not do with this stock Bitmain firmware. You don't get that. At best, you get a little option for a low power mode. And like the details are so scarce, you're almost kind of like, well, what does that mean? You got to get out there and take readings of the power from the wall. You got to look on, you know, your mining pool and make sure this hash rate's accurate, all that stuff. You know, you just don't get enough information from these dashboards from a company that moves millions and millions, really billions of dollars, right? Of freaking Bitcoin mining hardware. It's crazy. And we'll check on our new guy here. So you can see that this has come online now. It's mining. We see the watts of terahash efficiency under 23. That's good. That's what we want to see. You know, when it comes to the tuner, make sure you understand this can take days to finish tuning, right? And it saves that tuner configuration. And so it can, you know, kind of bootstrap other miners of the same model that you put on. It can quickly kind of get back on target if this gets restarted and things like that. It'll periodically try to, you know, retune itself, check the environment, check the temperature and things like that. A difference with this miner versus some of the other ones we've mentioned so far in this video is the other ones we looked at were all in immersion fluid. This is air cooled. This is just sitting on the floor and on the upstairs at VoskCoin HQ right now. So it's just sitting there running, doing its thing. But I really prefer, right, if I'm going to immerse this, which I am going to immerse this one in the near future, that preferably I get it on Braiins early. One, it's something to do. Then, you know, I just triple check, you know, Braiins is running, it's mining right? No issues. The less variables I can introduce to like the immersion install day is great news to me as far as I'm concerned. All right, I know this is kind of a long and maybe elaborate video. I hope that you found everything in this video helpful and informative. I hope that it functions as a good tutorial and video guide. I know, to be frank, I kind of added a lot of information along the way, but I don't know, I hope you see the value in that. I hope you see the value in what I'm doing here on the VoskCoin YouTube channel, because while we are so focused and enthralled, you know, with building a mining farm, I also love working on, you know, video content and even written content here for the VoskCoin channel. So, hey guys, I'm Vosk. You're on the VoskCoin YouTube channel. If you like this video at all, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that you think would, you know, even just watch this, right? Send them the video. Sharing the video makes all the difference. You know, I don't want your money. I want your support. You know, and that pushes the channel forward. So if you're still here watching, thank you for watching. And I'm gonna head out as we close this out with 10 seconds of Tails. We do that on every video. She is our CFO, our Chief Firmware Officer, the venerable Tails freaking Vosk. You're such a good girl. She's in my office right now looking like a freaking cutie. Looking like a cinnamon roll over there. All right, I'm gonna head out. See ya.